Okay, let's take a look and see what we have here. As you can see, from Amazon. Should be a couple things in this box. One thing not stamp related, but the other thing stamp related. Okay, here's what the subject of this video is about. The other thing is car wax. You're not interested in that. Let's take a look here. Okay, so this is some pre-printed legal-sized stationery, okay? I was kind of interested in this kind of aged type of printed look. I've been doing a lot of things with the vellum, which could be an application for this, but not necessarily. I wanted to find something that had a nice deep vignette around it, okay? Now, I'm not going to be doing full-size scenes like this on this type of paper, but, I mean, you could. Like this one right here could be, you know, a slimline type of paper, all right? Okay, but let's take a look and let's see. There should be 4 different patterns in here, if I'm not mistaken. Inexpensive, you know, pack here, set. Okay, let's take a look at the different finishes here. I find them, pretty interesting. I don't know. I haven't purchased any of these types of things in the past. Oh, I didn't realize this. This is front and back. Okay, that's good. And let's see, the 4th one is right here. The ones that I was the most interested in were the ones with the deeper vignette, though. Okay, so these 2 right here. All right. If you put it this way, you'd have these horizontal types of striations in here. Could be pretty interesting just to stamp directly on this. I haven't decided exactly what I'm going to do with it, but let's try something out in this video. A lot of times I just kind of pop it open. I tell you about kind of my theory on the utilization of whatever products. I can see this one almost has kind of a cloudy formation in it like that. I don't know if I would utilize that. I guess I would utilize it if I was stamping on the front side of this, but... Okay, now, here's the thing. These things are kind of... Or not kind of, but they are... They're formatted for this 8.5 by 11 here, okay? Meaning it's a vignette. Usually there's a little bit of a darker edge to it, and that gives it that aged type of look. That's what I'm always doing in my scenes. I'm kind of, you know, tipping the edges like that, darkening the edges. So I don't see myself using these pieces for a quarter-sized piece. I guess you could, but it would be, to me, off balance because one area would be darkened like that and the other part's not, okay? So I see myself as using, I mean, this one right here, it's very heavily weighted on the vertical sides, okay? So these are really dark up here, and, you know, the bottom side's lighter, or that could be the top and this is the bottom. You know, I don't know. I see this as kind of top and bottom, though. You could go this way, but then it's much heavier weighted that way. So in terms of a balance piece, I would probably see myself using more of like a half-page type of format, with this either being the top or the bottom side of it. You know, I don't know. You could, I mean, you could go square too, you know, 8.5 by 8.5 or something like that, or you can cut it down like this and go 8 by 8, you know, one of those standard kind of scrapbooking formats. Same thing with right here. This one's a little bit more weighted on this side, right, because of this really dark edge here, but it does have a slightly darker kind of edge right here, corner, all right? So 3 of them are kind of cornered, you know, with a darker edge. This one a little bit. I mean, it's certainly light, darker on the edge than in the center here. So, you know, something like this, or maybe even better this. I don't know. This one's really kind of offset like that. No, okay. Let's see here. Oh, I just cut a bunch of 5 by 7s here. But let's see how dark that would look through this. Okay, now see, this is a piece of vellum, so if I use this, that really gets muted down. You know, you really don't see too much going on in the background there. So I don't know about that one. Maybe, now I would do, you know, like a half page on this, but that looks, you know, this one right here with kind of a darker formatting, that looks pretty good like that as a background, okay? I mean, it cuts it down by like 50% in terms of the value, at least, wouldn't you say? Maybe 60%. But now, sometimes when you spray seal this, like I've been doing, okay, it makes the vellum less kind of towards the opaque spectrum in terms of the, you know, the transparency and opacity spectrum. You know, translucency is in between. It makes it more transparent. So if I spray seal this and then I seal it down on here, that might show through stronger, okay, in terms of both the value and the intensity. It's not very intense. This is very dull. You know, there's not a lot of bright colors in this, okay? So that might show through a little bit more. Okay, so that being said, what do we stamp on here? You know, I've been doing like birch trees and things like that. But on something like this, I think we can do some really interesting kind of aged, you know, that sepia looking, you know, type of print, old photographs. I mean, it's certainly, you know, conducive for that type of thing here. So I tell you what, let's stamp something out on here. Let's see, which one should I do? Should I go with the darkest one? Or I can go with this part of it. That looks pretty cool right there. Let's try some of this out. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just cut these down. I'm going to half them. And I think I'm going to do it this way. Should I do it this way? I don't know. I'll probably do it. I'll probably, over time, I'll do it both ways. I don't know. Those striations in there. This is what I go through in terms of my thought process, you know, on here. I think the easiest thing is to just half them this way. Okay, because one of the things about this, if you have it this way, then you have the ability to mount this using your, you know, 8.5 by 11, whatever selection of papers that you have. If you go this way, then you have to cut off the edges if you want to mount it, you know, kind of mat it, you know, without having to move up into something like a 12 by 12 piece of paper or something like that. You know, most of our kind of supplies of paper, you know, at least mine are 8.5 by 11. I guess, you know, I guess a lot of people have like scrapbooking tablets, you know, with, you know, 12 by 12s and everything like that. But well, I'm just going to go this way. Okay. Let's go 5.5 and 5.5. I just do things to save time. So, oops, I just skewed this a little bit. Okay, now let me see if I can find my little nick up here. Where's my nick? It's camouflaged in with the paper. Okay, I think it's... Okay, there it is right there. Make a stronger little nick cut into the paper. Finding a needle in a haystack. Okay, so I'm just going to cut all these at one time. Yeah, you might be a little bit more accurate if you go one at a time, but I am into saving time. You know, without being too, you know, unless it's like really inaccurate. Okay, so let's go with something like this, and let's try some of this. Now, a lot of you are, you know, you're already utilizing this stuff. Maybe you can give me some tips on what you found as far as your media that you like to use on something like this or whatnot. Or whatever. Let's go with something like this. That's a little bit darker. Let's go with a little bit of a lighter one. Just so I can see it a little bit more, maybe. I don't know. I guess I haven't used these before at all, so I'm not even sure if I should use my dye-based ink or my black memento pad, the pigment ink. Either one should dry on this just fine, though, because this is a printed paper, but it's porous paper. So I would think just about anything can work on there. I don't think you'll need to worry about drying time at all. Okay, so let's try something here. A lot of people like this scene that I did with a horseback rider kind of on this farm. Let's go with something like that. Let's try that here. Okay. Going with my fences. Let's test this out with a dye-based ink. Okay. And let's go with a fence over here and a fence over here. A little bit of hill back here. Maybe a farm or something like that. Barn. And a rider in there. Let's just see what this looks like. Okay, so testing out black dye-based ink on here in terms of impression quality. How well is a dye-based ink going to transfer and absorb into this paper? Remember, dye-based inks work by staining. Let's see, which side do I want? I want that on the right-hand side. I don't know why. Okay, let's go with go about right here. Okay, let's test this out. I'm going to hold this down a little bit longer just because I don't know the characteristics of the paper and if I'm going to get a really good, strong impression or not. I'm assuming that I will, but I don't know for sure. If it stamps out too light. That stamped out fairly light. I don't know, that doesn't look too bad though. Because it's supposed to be kind of aged looking, right? So stands to reason it would be a little bit dull. I don't know. Let's do that and that, and let's do the opposite side in let's try the brilliance. Okay. Pigment ink, okay. Oh, I haven't used, maybe I should use my Clair on here. Like I said, this is a porous paper, so I think the Clair would work. But let me see something. I'm just seeing if this black is on my finger a little bit. And I think it is a little bit. Okay, let's go over to the Versifying. Or the Brilliance. Sorry, Brilliance. Maybe let's try the Versifying too. Okay, might as well. Yeah, they're not gonna match, okay, but hey, we want to test things out, right? Now's the time. Okay, this is a Brilliance Black. So Brilliance Blacks, it's a pigment ink, so it's going to be a thicker ink, and I don't know. In theory, it's going to be a darker impression. Okay, I have a feeling it's going to be. I'm going to take a guess here that it's going to be at least, I don't know, 40% darker. Okay, no, it's not so dark, but that's better though. See that right there? Can you tell? That's darker, and that's a little bit lighter. It's not 100% black though. Okay, let me go close my door. I got people yelling throughout the house here. Okay, I like that look though. Isn't it it's kind of a haunting look. Oh, this would be perfect for like a winter, like a Halloween scene. Okay, so that is that. Let me stamp out these sedge fillers in the background. I'm going to create this little hillside here, slope. Huh. Okay, let's do that. When I said I was like thinking, I can put in some other trees or something like that in the background. Okay. Center pressuring when I use my texture stamps like this, okay? You don't You don't rock it like this to get, you know, right, real thick edges, right? Center pressuring, so finger like that. Or if you use a stamp positioner, just don't, you know, squish it down. Okay. It's almost camouflage in some ways with all that texture going on already. Can you see that sedge filler in there? I mean, it's a little bit obscured, but what I'll do is I'll tone that in, so we'll define that, you know, the horizon line a little bit more, or a lot more, as we develop this scene right here. Okay, so that is that. That was using the brilliance there. Okay, now I didn't want to go with the Claire yet. I'll try the Claire. Actually, I'll try the Claire for some of my foreground little textures in here, like little pebbles. Okay, things that are closer to us, I tend to do darker. All right. Now I love this Claire black. I think a lot of us do, right? Because it is just so stark black, and it really gives you tight definition. So yeah, that looks fantastic on there. Okay, now use it in black, but also use it in every incarnation of its repetitive, I don't know, whatever, impression off of one ink, okay? So you can use it at 100%, okay? Use it as, it's like an 80, 40, I don't know, 30, whatever, you know what I mean? And that will give you, what it's doing is when you use something like that, okay, and I use it for my textural forms. I'm not going to repeat a bunch of fence stamps everywhere throughout the piece, but when it comes to things like textures, when you use those secondary whatever impressions, okay, it's almost like you're getting 5 Clairs, right? Because you're getting black, 80% gray, 60%, 20%, 5%, you know, so on and so forth, right? You're getting a lot of different, whatever, colors in one. So why not, you know? It's conducive for the overall look, too. Right. That's what's good right about scenic stamping, you know? It's not specific imagery, sometimes it's just textures. Okay, so let's see here. I'm going to have to find some of the stamps that I used on some of those previous impressions. Oh, good. This one's right here. This is a little barn. I'm just going to plop this right here in the distance. Okay, now this is going to be distant, okay? So what I like to use is I like to put things in the distance that are a little bit lighter. So let's go ahead with the black. It's interesting that we can just use, you know, just a straight black pad for that, but as we saw, stamping it on here, some of the ink just doesn't transfer. You know, apparently this printed sealed piece is a little bit less porous, you know, as reflected in with the graphite black as well. Okay, so what I'm going to do, this is sitting in the grass a little bit. So one of the things that I do for things standing in grass is I wipe off the bottom of it a little bit like this, okay? Now this is really distant, so I'm not putting it, you know, wiping it off halfway up. I'm just kind of wiping off the bottom just a touch so that I don't have this strong line on the bottom, okay? And that makes it so that we don't have to mask anything, okay, or whatnot. It just makes the entire process easy. These are easy processes, but these little tiny tweaks like this can really remove a lot of the work for us, okay? You don't have to mask off the bottom of it, just wipe some of it off. Okay, so stamping this in like so. Okay, see that? I mean, that kind of fits with the look. It's, you know, it's lighter in the background than the darker fences, right? I mean, it's the color of that one right there because that's what I stamped it in. But okay, let's stamp some trees out. I really want to do them in more of the Claire, you know, to have some darker trees in here. but I don't know if I want to go darker than this foreground fence here, okay? So let's just go with the brilliance here. I'll save that VersaFine Clair for a couple other images that we'll use in here. Okay, so tree cluster, okay? I'll go with the tree cluster in its entirety, all right? I have a lot of videos on this, but I always talk about these different aspects of Stampscapes imagery if I'm utilizing it in other videos too. Okay, so use of it in its entirety there. I just grabbed a paper towel and I ripped it, okay? And now, let's utilize this, just like our inks, you know, we're maximizing the usage of these types of things, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mask this off right here with a kind of a ripped edge. You don't want to do a straight edge like that, so do a tear like that, okay? And then, here, I have that little horizon up there with the sedge filler that I created. And then you have background trees like that, right? See how easy that is to do? Some people, the comments are, it's kind of a compliment, but it's not a compliment to my teaching, though, but it's a compliment to stamps. It's like a lot of people take a look at the end result of, you know, some project that I do, and they say, oh my gosh, I can never do that, you know? Well, you don't want people to say, oh my God, we don't want someone to look at our project and say, oh my gosh, how easy that was to do. Or that must have been so easy. But you still want this to be accessible. You don't want people to kind of, just turn off and say, oh my gosh, I automatically can't do that. I don't know where that came into the picture. Stampers always used to say, oh my gosh, I want to do that. I can do that. I can't wait to try it. But now it's like, I can't do it. There's some of that spirit going on. I'm thinking, hey, we've taught, classes, like entire classes, to kindergarten and preschool kids. And I've had tons of little kids, because, they come through with the stamp conventions and do make and takes with their parents. Usually they're moms, usually it's not a dad at the stamp convention, but I don't know, they all get it. Okay, so here, stamping my rider right here. I'm not going to wipe off their feet right here because they're really close up and it's kind of supposed to be maybe dirt, right down here. I'm going to do this in the brilliance, I think. Again, I'm kind of tempted to do it in the Clair, but we'll save the Clair for another usage within this piece here, I think. I'll show you what that'll be here. Okay, but anyways, do you see those little trees throughout there in the background? It's just, again, it's just using one stamp, but you get a different look using the different parts of it, or just smaller parts of it, right? And it looks different, I think, different enough where it's not like you're saying, oh my gosh, that's the same tree used over and over and over again. But it's similar enough to where you get the repetition of form. And when you get the repetition of form, pattern, and things like that in your artwork, what that does is it creates continuity and harmony throughout your piece. It's like you're being like a designer, and that portion of it is, repeated in different parts of the scene. So it's just like you bringing a certain color into a house and using it in another room or something like that, carrying it over or repeating it somewhere within the room. Okay, so I think that looks pretty good. Okay, now let's try a little bit of toning in here, okay? I don't think I need to do too much. Okay, now this is heavily weighted over here, okay? As we can see. So let's try, I should use one of my better cotton balls here, but I'm going to use just a bad cotton ball. And let's go with the brilliance pad here for this, okay? I was thinking, should I use the VersaFine? I think I don't want to use the dye base, though. I don't think it'll be dark enough, and I just want this to go faster. So ink this up and kind of get it ready to go, kind of wipe some of it off like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a stain like this one over here. Okay, I'm not going to go that dark, okay? But, okay, now watch this. See, I'm just staying in that one spot, and I'm dragging this. So it's kind of dragging it down. I'm not going like this and up. I'm kind of going like this as a little wipe. See that little wisp like that? It's not going to happen, instantly, but it doesn't happen, it doesn't take long. So you just kind of take it like that. And see that little bit like that? See, I'm kind of spreading it around. It kind of gave me a big, thick, initial swipe that first time, but you just stay with it. And you can spread it around like so, accordingly, okay? So that side right there, it's kind of matching a little bit more. Let's go a little bit more. It doesn't have to be symmetrical, but it's just that side was weighted so heavily with that big corner application of black. But I just wanted to balance it out slightly at least, okay? Okay, now that's done over there. So what I'm going to do too is, now all the striations are, let's see, there are some kind of going this way too. I was thinking, I wonder if I can come in this way here and darken this corner down here. Remember I said all these papers kind of have a vignette, so it's a little, it's darker in the corners. Well, since we cut it in half, let's just darken this corner ourselves. Now we can move through, if you have like a sepia ink or a walnut stain, maybe that'll work too. I'm finding that I don't think I really need to do that though. I think black is sufficient here. I put a big blob of that so I can wipe it off a little bit. Over here I might want to be a little bit more careful because that fence is just so light. Okay, so see that right there? So see this from a compositional standpoint. I'm looking at it again here. Let's go a little bit darker right here. Okay, see that? Doesn't it kind of contain the imagery a little bit more? Okay, now what I was mentioning about this horizon line up there, I don't know if I'll do too much. I think it's looking pretty good as is, but let's do some little touches in here. Okay, now approach this with a very dry application. Now see, I've already wiped this over, like 20 times over here, okay? Utilize that same amount there that's on there, and let's come into this, and let's kind of create some shadows underneath some of our trees. Now, if this is too awkward a tool to be doing, kind of a smaller application, then just use like a colored pencil or something like that. Like maybe I'll do that on here. I'll put a little bit of shadow like underneath here, like that. See that shadow being created? Doesn't that anchor our, our subject matter into the scene? But like right around here in the fence post area, maybe that's a little bit too kind of detail oriented. So let's grab a black colored pencil and just see, I'm doing like a 5%, I don't know, maybe that's a 10% gray, value of that. So watch this. See, I'm just kind of barely touching it, okay? Now, a lot of people they're not comfortable with doing very light additions of something because they, like, especially on here, it's like, you go like this, it's like, I can't see anything. So then they go like that, they kind of go the extreme. Just use a little bit more pressure. You'll get the feel of it very quickly, okay? But look, as I do this, and just barely touch the paper, okay? It's building up pretty fast. It's like a 5%, 10%, 20%. It takes like, I don't know, 3 seconds per post or something like that. Okay, and you can do this on the edges here too. Let's say you didn't get a real smooth application of your color. Then just take a pencil and just lightly, kind of fog it over and blend it in like this, okay? Okay, now look at this barn up here. Oh, here's some distant trees there. We'll create a little bit of a shadow. Kind of more in the distance, you don't see as strong a shadow because it's so far away. Well, this barn right here, let's kind of anchor it down a little bit. I mean, I'm barely doing anything. And maybe on the side of the barn, you know, on one side of it, I can add a little shadow. Again, you're not going to see things so far developed because it's so far in the distance, okay? Darker things and more detailed things are, you know, more visible closer up like that, okay? So anyways, you get that. Okay. And, okay, now here, let's go with the VersaFine Clair. Let's go for some darker impressions. Darker impressions, to me, represent things that are closer to us, especially in a scenario like this. But it could be any scenario, okay? Let's try the VersaFine Clair. Just, if you don't have that, you don't have 2 forms of Brilliance ink or, you know, Brilliance and another type, then just use whatever you have. But let me show you what this looks like, okay? So that was the Marvy Black on that fence right there, right? Okay, to me, that's a weakness, okay? It's too light for as dark as this horse is right here. But to me, I'm going to make that a strength, okay? And I'll show you how I do that. By putting these reeds right here, that represent something that's much closer to us, okay? As we're looking into the scene, contrasted now against these reeds like that. See, that fence looks really good because we've put it, you know, in the distance. It's not that far away representatively, but, you know, like 10 feet away from us or something like that, right? But see, these reeds really stand out really strongly against that. That's like a 50% gray, and this is, oh, the Clair's like 100% on here. At least in the reeds. This, I don't know, did I stamp her out? I can't even remember what I stamped what out in. Oh, I just stamped the pebbles in that black. I don't know if you want strong images on this. So this is great. I'm glad I can use my VersaFine Clair again. And I'm pretty sure this is not going to have any problem drying. Like I said, it's not like a non-porous substance that I'm stamping on here. Okay, now I'm not going to put a big wall of grass up against this because it represents probably like a path or road going into there, but you know, maybe it's overgrown on the sides like that. So look at this little kind of entryway, visual entryway for our piece by putting that darker impression next to it. And see those, you know, certain impressions of the black look pretty good on here. So I think overall, even though you have some deeper values like that, save for the foreground and vignette, you know, I think it goes pretty well with this printed paper. Now maybe you want to go for something a little more, like even, I think this looks really aged and pretty cool like that. But let's say you're doing, where's my other papers? Okay. Now there's some of these other ones that are much lighter like this one right here, okay? Maybe you can stamp something out in like a dark brown or something like that. And it will kind of match with this color scheme a little bit more. On here, I mean, we see how the black looks in some of these areas, and I just don't know if like a dark brown would hold up unless you did something really distant in there that would barely show. You know, something like a, I don't know, where's my, like a walnut stain, okay, distress ink, you know. I don't know if that's really going to show. This would probably look pretty good if you just kind of stain, like that walnut stain would probably be like this color right down in here. It'd be kind of like akin to something like this color, you know, the walnut stain. So it would be barely visible like that, so. Okay, so anyways, I think that's, I don't know, these papers, I think, you know, kind of, you know, I think there's a lot of potential with them to do, you know, certain types of looks. You can create something like that in the background of, you know, your cardstocks or something like that, but you know, this is a pretty good head start, you know, to having to do that at all, you know, and I think it's pretty cool. I think I'm going to do something with this, like a cave scene or something like that. like an old photograph of like a cave or something like that. I don't know why that comes to mind when I look at something like that, but I don't know. I think this would be fantastic too. People like to do printing on here, with text, so I can do like word stamps in here. I think would look really cool. Because it's kind of like stationary. It's meant for, text and things like that. I think that's what it's mainly made for. So I think that kind of word forms in here would be really cool. So it's just a matter of, how dark do you want them to stand out? Do you want it to be VersaFine Clair dark, like a Brilliance black, or like a dye-based ink one? Dye-based ink it's going to be like I don't know, it's like a 30% gray or something like that. So you'd have to watch out where you print things out on here. If you do it directly onto the paper. Oh, so I'm going to have to decide kind of what, do I want to mat this on? Another one of its other colors would make kind of a nice mat like that. A little bit of a border like that. I think that looks really good. So you use its own type of border like that, and then you can put it onto a heavier cardstock or something like that. Okay. So anyways, yeah, just a real simplistic application of it. I did very little toning on here. We can also add other colors. I would probably do it with something like a colored pencil though on here. I don't think I would do it with the dye-based ink. I think it would just look kind of out of place, and like paint pens, I just don't know. It doesn't seem like, at least on this scene right here, it just doesn't seem to fit kind of that aged, real weathered look of the imagery, which is what things are going to look like if you stamp it on this aged looking, weathered, type of printed paper. So a lot of things to explore, a lot of fun to have, and I look forward to doing it. Thanks so much for joining in. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have anything to kind of add in, if you've used this type of thing, let me know what you've found about it. Different types of inks. What are your favorite inks to use on there? Colors and whatnot. And I'd love to know. Okay, so thanks again.